So close the door and get everyone in. Okay, everyone, and welcome to the last lap of ADT 2025. This is our 10th event in Addis. And before we wrap up for the end of the day, the end of ADT 2025 this year, we have three sessions to take us to the very end of the day. The last panel is going to be on national ICT strategies and regional collaboration. We have speakers there from the United Nations Capital Development Fund, from the Ethiopian Agricultural Transformation Institute, and from the Mauritius IT Authority. That's going to be the last panel. Before that, we have another fantastic panel on the creator economy. We just heard a very good panel before this on the startup ecosystem. We're going to pick up on some of those themes with a panel on the creator economy, which is the next new wave of entrepreneurs in digital media space doing augmented reality, extended reality, virtual reality, gaming, and so on. This is the next wave of digital media in Africa, and we've got a fantastic panel on the creator economy. But before that, we're going to have a fireside chat on another very important topic, which some of you flagged to us when we we're putting this conference program together, which is the importance of focusing on the digital experience, the digital customer. What does it take to design a premium product, a premium service, and engage the end user in this process? And you must have heard many times people referring to Apple and Apple products. One of the companies that has taken design to the ultimate level is companies like Apple, where design is baked into the way the company thinks, feels, makes products, services, and processes. So the focus of this customer experience chat is on how to optimize digital engagements and services. This will be a fireside chat with Frida Eposindi. Frida is a digital innovation fellow at the African Union Commission. She also gets an award for asking the best questions yesterday and the largest number of questions. That's a dream kind of attendee we would like to have at the conference. Please welcome Frida up on stage. We're going to have a quick chat for about 15 minutes on customer experience, digital design, user experience, and so on. A very important topic for the future design of AI enabled and other mobile services. So, a round of applause, please, for Frida while we finish our introductions and move straight into our session. Once again, the hashtag for those tweeting or LinkedIn posts is hash ADT 2025. So, Frida, let's begin with some comments about your work. What do you do, and what does a digital innovation fellow mean, and some other work at African Union?
Okay, hello everybody. Thank you so much. What I do is I am a design strategist. I help startups and small businesses identify their users or their customers and build the whole user experience and journey for the customers. But at the level of the African Union, I'm a digital fellow and I'm designing dashboards and helping the Directorate of the Women Gender Youth Directorate identify areas on financial inclusion and how we can empower more women and youth to have access to financial inclusion, pretty much, or financial services, pretty much. And I'm working particularly on the dashboards, using Power BI and helping the directorate to identify areas where we can help women and youth.
Thanks so much. I'm very glad we're having this discussion on design. Very often, those of us who are techies or in the business world forget the importance of not just the aesthetics of design, but how design improves the overall experience. And many people still think design is something you do afterwards. You first build a product or a service and then say, let's make it look nice. But that's completely the wrong approach. So I'm sure there are many other misconceptions you've come across. So, what are some misconceptions and myths that you still see in the world of design?
I think the biggest the most I've seen is having design come last, or people assuming that design is an afterthought, or yeah, let's do something and then we'll make it look nice. But another one I'd like to highlight is most times people feel it's a one-time process. It's something that we do once and we move on, or maybe having a responsive design is not relevant or it's not obligatory. And most times is a mistake that most people think, and I feel like it's um hugely assumed that design comes at the end, but it's we zoom out of the fact that it's the whole process, the whole user experience. It starts from tackling the problem, who the user is. From there, from identifying solutions to a problem, we start thinking of what it would mean to the user, and that's where design comes in. You start from the core, so it's usually assumed that it comes at the end. Meantime, it should be considered from the very beginning.
Fantastic. Thanks. Another good topic that has come up many times today and yesterday is data. How data insights can better understand customers and how you can design better experiences based on data. And now AI is taking analytics to yet another level. So, what are some of your thoughts on data driven design, AI for better customer experience, and so on?
So the beautiful thing about data, in my opinion and my experience, is it will highlight patterns and insights that would help inform proper decision. And I'm so happy about the conversations yesterday. Of course, those who were here would identify a lot of questions from me, because I feel like it's a huge part of decision making that we do not pay attention to. And I feel like also, the patterns, the insights that we get from data or analyzing, it helps everyone or any company or organization to be able to come up with a decision on how, or to be able to zoom in and identify, first of all, the pain points of its users, and then use that to develop solutions, or identify areas of impact, and then be able to design solutions or proper solutions for the customer, rather than just assuming. Also, I feel like data helps us, or analyzing data or results from that helps us understand properly who our users are, what they're going through, and how we can their behaviors to a certain products, and then help us come up with a foreseen future on how we can help them, not just in the now but also in the future. We can use patterns from this analysis to be able to design something for the user in future.
Great. You've talked a lot about the opportunity that AI opens up. We also had some questions earlier today and yesterday on, is AI going to take away jobs? So, is Gen AI going to make it even more difficult for designers? Because now you can tell, these various Gen AI agents, design this brochure for me, compose this tune for me. So, is that going to be a threat for designers, or what's your take on this?
I think it's not the threat, to answer directly, but also it's an opportunity for growth and more creativity. For me, it's an opportunity, like I mentioned, and AI is not taking anybody's job. Of course, you must familiarize yourself to know how to use AI as a tool. And there were many other tools before AI. So AI is just one of those tools that would enhance your productivity. And I feel like a lot of designers who use AI or Gen AI would be able to agree with me that it makes your work a little less complex or easier, because there's a whole creative process that comes into design, and sometimes you will take a couple of hours, even 4 or 5 hours, just to come up with something unique for a client. But AI comes and gives you suggestions and points you to directions that would help you ease the process, and just makes it easier for you to develop something from an area where it's a bit unique, but also solves or meets the consumer's needs or demand. So it's not going to take jobs, rather it's making our jobs a little less complex.
Great. Thanks, Frida. We've talked a lot about the overall theoretical and some of the foundational issues of AI and technology. Let's talk a bit more about what's happening in Africa. What are some good examples you've seen of digital experience or good customer experiences online in Africa by African companies, B2B space, B2C? You take it.
So I was very excited today when I learned that the CEO of M-Pesa was in the room, because it's a B2C uh service that has served a lot of um millions of people, especially with the reality that a lot of Africans are unbanked and having to move from mobile phones to financial transactions, transacting across countries, cities, even for those who are not very tech inclined, using mobile money. I feel like it's a very, very huge and impactful technology, and M-Pesa is doing that. And I'd just like to, use an opportunity to give an applaud to that particular model, because I've seen it being duplicated in different countries. In Cameroon, where I come from, we have mobile money under MTN and Orange, and those are just the providers. But you see other telecommunication companies picking on some of these or adopting some of these features into their businesses, and it's very interesting. And you don't need to be a tech savvy person to have maybe mobile money application or to be able to know how to send money. You just need to have that need to send or receive money. And for B2B, coming from an edutech background or sector, I'd identify Andela as one that is closing the skill gap in the ecosystem by just training developer software engineers, and connecting them to multinationals, closing that talent or that skill gap in the ecosystem is very applaudable. So those are the two that I'd like to highlight.
That's a great insight. We should invite more speakers from these companies the next time. Yeah. We have speakers, audience members here from across Africa. We've got Kenya here, South Africa, Cameroon, etc. So, what do you see as centers of emerging digital excellence in Africa? What other cities do you see as worthy to look at in terms of, wow, check out these startups coming from here, check out the design coming from this place? What are some hubs you see?
I think we had a little bit of that earlier. We of course we have the top threes. We're looking at Lagos in Nigeria. We're looking at uh, Egypt is doing amazing as well. But I've been very intrigued by the growth in Ethiopia here as well, with digital infrastructure, and just amused by how much electric cars, for example, are in Ethiopia. I did not notice. I don't even think it's a regulation that has been accepted in other countries, but I was very impressed by that. So I think it's something worth emulating or duplicating, or embracing in other nations or other countries. Another is Kigali, Rwanda, with smart cities. I feel like that's also something that is emerging. It's more becoming a name that is known and a term that is known and verse. So um, that's also another that comes to mind would be uh maybe those two for now. Just to
That's a
say,
good start.
yeah,
Yeah.
just to
I've got a
say
few
two.
more questions for her, but I really want to open up to the audience and ask questions of your own. My next question for you is on capacity building. How can industry and academia work together in African countries to improve digital design, customer service thinking, and so on and so forth? And you at the African Union, are you also spurring these kinds of collaborations? Are you bringing together industry and academia? Tell us some of this.
Yeah, that's a very good collaboration. It's it's what we need to move to the next level, not just at the tech as a tech perspective or even African Union, but as Africans that are trying to build our own technology or tech ecosystem or innovation ecosystem generally, because academia would be able to give us or give our people you know um a good base or foundation on what we're supposed to know, while the industry would come in with the practical work. So then we are able to merge or close the gap between theory and practice, and then it makes it easier for us to practice what we learn in class or in school. And I feel like that's the most practical way to train or teach anybody and to build experts. One of the speakers said earlier that sometimes the curiosity is not just about um, having women come on to close the gender gap, but do we have experienced women? Do we have experts that are women that are, that are also qualified for certain roles to be able to close that gap? Not just for women, also for the youth as well, just to see that it's an opportunity to have a good collaboration between academia and industry. That way, we're able to build or come up with more experts within the ecosystem for diverse roles.
Frida, we've also had discussions here on diversity, inclusion, and so on. How do you design for diversity? How can companies take on design for diversity as a principle to roll out new products and services to bring on new customers into the market?
So first in mind, anytime I hear diversity, I'm cutting across the room. I'm thinking gender, I'm thinking background, I'm thinking disability, I'm thinking youth, age, and things like that. And it really depends on what a company is trying to design or their objective. I feel like it's easier to have an open mind when you're designing, to be able to have different informed decisions that speaks to the design, not just for a particular person, particular group of people, but to be able to cut across different gender, different age groups, open questions like, what will maybe a person of 60 years, or how will a person of 60 years interact with a particular app, for example, as opposed to a person of in their mid 20s, or in their early 30s would interact. And also, how would a woman react to certain things, and how will a man react to certain things. And if it has to do with designing of infrastructure, then we have to also start thinking about physical disability and things like that. So it's having an open mind and being able to embrace different views and different points of views, to be able to impact and inform a person's designing a product or an application general, or a service.
Okay, I got two more questions, and then I'm going to turn to the audience. My next question for you is what's your assessment of design capacity in Africa? How many design schools are there? What quality of design thinking is taught? How many of these ICT training programs also include design and customer issues while they teach technology skills? What have you come across, anecdotal or numbers?
In my experience, quite honestly, it's we are still at the starting point, at the very early stages. It's true that the interest is there, and from private sector, we find a lot of private sector um, companies being open up to the idea of design thinking, for example, and even some universities. But it's a concept that will would thrive, and I feel like it's a matter of time before we see a lot of um, companies, institutions embracing design thinking. But to talk about design schools, I hardly think that we have a lot on the continent. Um, like I said, it's mostly considered to be an add-on, or just a side feature that comes into a project, not at the very beginning. So I think while we embrace the concept of design thinking and its impact on the work that we do, it's soon before we now start embracing it right from the beginning, and having institutions coming up with even just a single full course as design thinking and things like that.
Correct. Yeah. Another question that came up in an earlier panel was a lot of people are saying maybe we should ban social media because kids are getting very distracted by all this social media. So I'm sure there are many parents out in the audience. Many people will become parents, and many parents I know are worrying. At what age should I give my kids a smartphone? At what age should I allow them to use social media? So, what are your thoughts on these risks of digital media, and how should people design safe experiences for kids? What should we do for child protection online? Things of that sort.
Okay, so of course there's been that back and forth, but it comes down to being responsible as a parent, and also be very vigilant as a parent, but also being very open to having discussions around social media, around just getting your children or kids involved with technology in general. So while to some it might be bad, to others it's actually been very good, and I feel like it's a matter of rationing. If you're able to have time limits, if you're able to set some precautions around what they watch, when they watch, how long they watch, and how, just to be a bit observant on how content is impacting their behavior, is impacting their everyday life, it's easier to be able to uh, regulate that much more than just taking it away from them until a particular age, or giving it to them and not bothering to supervise what they're watching and how it's impacting them personally. And then also about being open to personal to any kind of conversation, making it easier for the kids to be able to talk to you about anything and everything and what they are watching or what they do not understand fully. Because if you avoid it, someone else will tell them, and they might be telling them something that is not real or something that is not what you want them to be able to have access to. So I feel like it comes down to just you as a parent being very intentional about what your kid is consuming and letting them know what is good and what is not good at a particular age, and just being able to model that until um they are able to make decisions of their own. But also, as a parent, what you do on social media, your kids somehow find out. So you have to be personally responsible on your own, to be able to reflect that as well.
Fantastic. We can squeeze in just one or two questions. Anyone got a comment or a suggestion? Yeah, okay. We'll just take that. Or two over there, very quick ones. Chidi and someone next to you. Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to ask around historical data sets, especially in the African context. Most of our data, of course, were in analog formats. None of many of them, were not actually in digital sets. Do you think the current data sets are enough for us to build data models, for instance, train AI, especially in this environment? Or what's your feel about importing the historical data into digital formats?
Okay.
Right. I mean, I agree with you that most of our data is very much analog, and it's going to take a lot of time to get all of that digital. But then, with the use of AI, I just like to throw that in. We are able to have what I'd like to term synthetic data that would help us to have an idea of what we can model while we have to use the time that we need to get on actual and real data on the system. But in the meantime, AI has come to facilitate that process for us, give us an idea or very close what we can use as data sets to be able to model um to be able to model the structures that we want to model for our data, our data infrastructure, if I could put it that way.
Okay, last question. On the same table, can we get the mic there, please?
Thank you so much for the interesting and insightful discussion. Um, I am Emnet Mesfin. I'm from World Food Program. Uh, I'm currently leading the Digital Transformation and Innovation Unit. So while you are presenting, in your discussion, I was quite fascinated how our paths align, because we also have a section for data and we do Power BI, data visualization, and in the other part we have also a digital capacity session. So my question is, what is the current focus in Africa Union? So given that your experience, could you share what the Africa Union's current focus in this area and what specific initiatives have been implemented to drive the digital change across the member states? Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't get across the.
Just that last sentence again. We can't hear very well from your first time. The mics are not so good. So,
The digital initiatives across the member states.
okay. Yeah.
Um, well, in the context, I'd like to say that when it comes down to member states, there's also the liberty of having individual member states, uh, take on some of the regulations. But coming from the perspective of using Power BI and them to be able to reflect results or reports, I feel like we are more open to that now. We're the African Union and all, of course, the member states are more flexible and embracing the idea of the digital innovation in reporting, which is why most of the reports within the AUC are very well the more visual now than back in the days when I'd say that it was very analog. But now you'd find evidence in the visualizations. They also embracing a lot of innovations from young people. That's why we have a lot of youth led or innovation led programs within the context of the African Union, just encouraging young people to come in with more innovative ideas on how we can report across different activities, across what is happening not just at the AUC but in other member state countries that are part of the AU. So, with regards to gender, did you add something about gender? I couldn't hear clearly on the question about gender, but I work directly with the Women Gender Youth Directorate, and um, what we do is try to reflect visually different activities that cuts across impacts not just on women but also youth, and we're doing that not just in Addis, but just cutting across different areas where we can work with um, different organizations in different member states, um, countries, just to get more women or more youth and young people involved in digital innovation and also financial inclusion.
Great. Thanks, for a fantastic fireside chat. We need to wrap up our discussion now, but let's have a quick photo and then we move on to our next session on the creator economy. Big round of applause, please, for Frida from the African Union.